Hey guys, Dan and Moxy here. Just a quick word to say we're keeping all of these old UTS podcast episodes available to you, still free of charge, on all of our platforms. But be aware, now that we're independent, we are no longer the official podcast of Cheltenham Saracens Rugby Club.
Also, all of our social media platforms will remain the same, but our SoundCloud page has a brand new address. You can find that at soundcloud.com/the UTS podcast.
Hey guys, this month's show is brought to you by Tone Radio, the University of Gloucestershire student radio station. Tone Radio broadcasts live from Park Campus all day, every day, and brings you a mixed bag of big names, local bands, and student acts. They also cover local music festivals, including Gloucestershire, Tone Radio's very own music festival back in March at the Frog and Fiddle, as well as the Witchwood and 2000 Trees Festival. Listen live at toneradio.co.uk or check it out on the TuneIn app. But before you go anywhere, let's get on with the show.
You are listening to UTS, the official podcast of Cheltenham Saracens RFC.
Hey guys, come on in, get comfortable, put your headphones in, whatever you want to do, make yourself at home. You're listening to Cheltenham Saracens RFC's official club podcast. As always, I'm your host, Dan Lodge, joined by Mark Moxy Collier.
Hello.
And we are coming to you live, almost, from the University of Gloucestershire's Park Campus in one of their fantastic radio suites. Before we get underway, just a quick reminder that this is a totally amateur podcast produced entirely by volunteers, and we bring you this show on the first Friday of every single month, absolutely free. All we ask in return is that you share it on social media, tweet about it, Facebook about it, email a friend. I think I had somebody on MySpace try to get a hold of me at the weekend, so if you still use MySpace, put it out on MySpace. Anything like that at all will absolutely help. Help us share our stories, help us share our guests' stories. All of that stuff is really, really appreciated. Don't forget, if you or someone you know owns a local business and would be interested in supporting the little podcast, because we're not funded by the club, everything we do is completely voluntary. We have zero budget for this one. If you'd like to support the podcast and get some cheap advertising just like Tone Radio have, drop us an email, utspodcast@gmail.com, and set your subject header as advertising. Now, before we get into it, we didn't get around to the mini episode about the Six Nations. We're really, really sorry. We'll make up for that in May, though, we promise you that. We also want to announce that the podcast has a brand new social media base. You can follow us directly on Twitter at the UTS Podcast and on facebook.com/the UTS Podcast. And we're working on a website, but until that actually comes to fruition, check us out on social media. Find us on Facebook, find us on Twitter, give us a follow, give us a like. Never miss a show. March wasn't a great month for the first team, starting with a loss to second place St Mary's Old Boys. Unbelievably close, 3 points to 5 on March 4th. The following weekend on the 11th saw a 25-all home draw against Chipping Sodbury. And then on the 25th, they came away on the losing effort to Frampton Cottrell. And last week saw the first come away with a walkover win, a very much needed 5 points. But credit to Gordon League, they played the game despite conceding the walkover. And it's arguable to say that the massive scoreline in favour of the Sarries doesn't really reflect the game. We caught up with first team manager Scott Rowe to hear his thoughts.
We've lost a couple of home games, very tight home games against the top teams, and when we've had the big games, we've come out second best. So it's clear that we're not good enough for promotion yet. But today was back on the horse after what was a bad week last week. Just boys, let themselves down a bit, and felt, But today we put a smile back on our faces. So.
Cheltenham North beat Smiths in the combination. Yeah. What are your thoughts going into that game?
Well, I watched that game actually the other night, and they gave us a tough game here at home not that long ago. And in the first half, they completely dominated Smiths, albeit Smiths really came back into the game. But I just think with the local derby, they'll really be anxious to get one over on us there. Away, it won't be an easy game. But I'd like to think, that we come through. But I certainly don't think it'll be easy, particularly bearing in mind we are really stretched. Our squad is really stretched. We've got so many injuries in the forwards. So, it'll be tough for us, but I'm looking forward to it.
The Seconds kicked off March with a win, 18-15 at home on the 4th to Newent. Then on the 11th, they lost out 57-14 against an unbelievably strong Old Pats Thirds, and again 15-29 on the 25th at home to Long Levens. They were also set to play Cheltenham North in the Combination Cup last night, but were given a walkover as North seconds couldn't provide a team. The third team didn't make any appearances at all in March, which is disappointing. Didn't feature last week, and of course there were no games played on March 18th. Looking at the youth side of things, I spoke to Moxy during the week to get the lowdown on the Pups.
The Pups kicked off March with a fantastic result against a good Minchinhampton side, who came to KGV with a reputation and were possibly viewed as the favourites to progress to the semi-finals of this year's County Cup play competition. The Sarries had other ideas and again were resolute in defence and thwarted attack after attack. We went into the half-time break 7-5 down, but after a great team talk and with that will to win, our boys held Minchinhampton out, and with a converted try with only minutes left on the clock, all we had to do was hold firm, and that semi-final berth was ours. The Sarries did hold out and picked up a great 12-7 win and a tricky semi-final tie away at Frampton Cotterell, who on the same day knocked out Cheltenham Tigers. Both our tries were scored by our try machine Joe, and Keno converted the second but was unlucky with the first. Our men of the match it's got to be to all 22 who pulled on the jersey on the day. Also, I'm going to give a special mention to Aaron, who led the boys in the haka made famous by his dad JC. That was in the change room afterwards. Toby, our prop, unluckily picked up a nasty gash on his knee that required 9 stitches and apparently a kiss from the nurse in A&E. Get well soon, fella. On the following Sunday, on the 12th, our boys made that trip to Frampton Cotterell to play in their first ever semi-final. On a perfect day for rugby, unfortunately that wasn't really how it finished though. The Sarries were a try down on 2 minutes and then again on 9 minutes. But with 10 minutes to go to the break, who else but Joe went on one of his trademark runs and touched down in the corner. And with a massive hit on his opposite number, Joel soon woke up the Pups and the crowd. We turned round 15-5 down, so with 25 minutes to go the Sarries still had their sights on a trip to Hartbury and the final. But this just wasn't to be, as we came up against arguably the best, technically good, well-drilled side in our short time as a squad. And with a consolation try from Kean, the referee blew for full time, and our involvement in this year's plate competition, County Cup, it was over for another year, as we lost 20 points to 10. And although disappointing, there was no shame in this result, as the Sarries were beaten by a better team on the day. Lots of positives to be taken from the game, and also plenty to work on. So, last year quarterfinals, this year semi-finals, next year who knows. But this group of players in this squad are improving all the time, and they should all be very proud of their achievements, because I'm definitely, and I know all the coaches and the parents and all that have watched, we're all definitely very proud of each and every one of the boys. On Sunday the 19th, the Sarries welcomed Shipston on Stour to King George V, a team that they have never previously played and knew nothing about. When the match kicked off, it seemed that we were still in the changing rooms, as for the second game in a row we were a try down very early on, after about a minute. It got worse, as after 10 minutes the boys in blue and yellow were 19-0 down. But as we've seen so many times this season, the boys don't just roll over, they get stuck in and fight for the badge and each other. At 19-12 we went in at half time. With the coach's words still ringing in their ears, the Sarries came out of the blocks and were in with a shout at 19-17. But 2 points behind, unfortunately, was as close as we got, as Shipston edged a close contest 29-22. A great game in patches. It was a disappointing result, but yet again, plenty of good points and things for the coaches to sort out and work on. Today, our tries were scored by Joel, Joe, our skipper Noah, Harvey, who has played his last game this season, unfortunately, as he's off to warmer climates for a couple of weeks on a holiday. Keane converted one of the 4. Today we were unrestricted with our squad. We had a debut for Joel Frost, and also we welcomed back to the field Blessing, Alex Lannon and Leo Daubney, who've been cup-tied and unavailable for all of our county cup matches. Our man of the match today was Charlie Maker, who was back to his destructive and brilliant best. So for the next few weeks it's going to be training until we play Stow away on the 9th of April.
Has to be said, a fantastic display in the County Cup plate for the Pups. Hopefully they can keep this going in April. Fingers crossed. Dan Townsend and Mike Crisp from Cheltenham Tigers joined us in the studio as Cheltenham have recently finished a massive crowdfunding drive to renovate their clubhouse. Both guys have real close ties to the Sarries and it's great to have them on the show. We toyed with this idea of having guests from other clubs on the pod, and while it is a Cheltenham Saracens podcast, there's nothing actually to say that it can't be a wider rugby community podcast. It's a podcast for all the rugby clubs. Whether they're Cheltenham, whether they're Bristol, hell, we'll take teams from Liverpool if they want to come on. If you're listening to this, wherever you are, and you want to maybe guest on the show or bring your club on the show and discuss its story to wherever it might be right now, feel free to get in touch, utspodcast@gmail.com. Let us know, because it's not just about us, it's about rugby in general. And hopefully, you know, this is a kind of a guinea pig episode, like you could say, and hopefully we'll find out which way the public's thumb goes. Before we get into it, let us remind you that this show is brought to you by Tone Radio, the University of Gloucestershire student radio station, broadcasting all day, every day, right here from Park Campus in Cheltenham. Tone Radio brings you a wide variety of local acts, big names and student work. From pop to indie to rock or golden oldies to punk, Tone has every genre to suit everyone. They also aim to provide some great coverage of Cheltenham's local music festivals, including Gloucestone Beret at the start of March from the Frog and Fiddle, as well as the Witchwood Festival and the 2000 Trees Festival coming up in June and July later this year. With student-led shows taking place from midday to midnight every single day of the week and banging tunes going out around the clock, you can check it out at toneradio.co.uk, search for Tone Radio on the TuneIn app, or head over to YouTube where they have live webcams for the shows that are going on. But before you go and check that out, we'll be right back after we sit down with Crispy and Towner.
Hello.
Good morning, gents.
But yeah, before we start, Crispy, you're still registered as a Cheltenham Saracens player?
Yeah, damn right.
Are you available Saturday?
Not a chance. Sherry corner maybe, but nothing else.
Lovely, lovely.
You've heard it here.
Right, okay. Basically, sort of, how did this crowdfunding thing come about?
So, as we all know, Towner Seniors down a club and been nagging me for quite some time to get back involved. And so I made the silly mistake of agreeing to do one project. So I went to a committee meeting, which is against every bone in my body, and they basically explained that the changing room complex was going to cost around £500,000. I was quite staggered to find that they raised 450,000 of it through bank loans, grants, and a number of other sort of gifts to the club, but we were £55,000 short. They then sort of broke the news to me around the RFU potentially giving us a 3G artificial pitch, but the sting in the tail being that if we don't get the changing rooms, we don't get the pitch. So my then one project became raising £50,000. So I went off into a dark room and tried to think logically about how we were going to actually raise the money. I'd seen Cheltenham Town Football Club had done a crowdfunding to raise money for their scoreboard. Lasted for 5 weeks. They wanted 60,000, raised 67. And I just thought, well, look, there we go. Something we can try. It'd never been tried in any rugby circles. So I got hold of the guy that helped Cheltenham Town Football, a guy called Murray Toms, got him on board, and then 2 weeks later walked into a committee meeting, told him what I was going to do, showed him a presentation, showed him some ideas, told him some names of the people, the volunteers that I'd roped in, Mr. Crisp, to name but one. Mr. Andy Silcock, Ian Underhill, some people that weren't on the current committee, and I basically suggested that we had a go at it. And quite interestingly, I don't think a single one of them thought we would manage it. So,
Fantastic. So, what were your roles, Crispy?
Well, originally Dan just said, look, I know you're busy, but you look after the website and you look after the Facebook page and what have you. I haven't got a clue what I'm doing on Facebook. It was Dan's famous words, and we wish he still wasn't on Facebook because what he posts is a load of crap. But Dan said, "Look, can we give us a hand?" And I just said, "Yeah, why not?" You know, I'm still part of the club. You know, it's where I played all my rugby. I enjoy going down to Newlands. It's a good crack down there. So when Dan said, you know, come on board, I was happy to do that. From a, you know, Dan's the man with the contacts. I'm the man who can make pretty pictures and stick them on Facebook and send it out to everybody.
So where'd you go from here then?
So the biggest single thing with crowdfund is not about necessarily raising the money. It's about building a crowd. And I know that sounds a bit corny, but you get a lot of people doing a lot of little things to make one big thing. And actually you build this crowd, you build momentum. Social media is obviously something that I'm a pretty amateur at it, as the boys will vouch for, which is why I needed the likes of Crispy. We've got Lauren that works at the race course. We've got Simon Morales in the first team. We've got lots of people that help us. So you know, the crowdfund's about getting a wave of people pushing in the same direction. And that's the key thing with this. This isn't just about a pitch or some changing rooms. This is about making Newlands Park a proper community facility. And I know everyone's going to sit there and go, community, yeah, right, this is about making Cheltenham great again. And I was actually quoted to say that in the press. And I actually said, this is not about making Cheltenham great. You know, to be quite honest with you, Crispy and I aren't that worried what league Cheltenham sit in. Yeah, it's great that if you're involved in a rugby club that's successful and doing well, but it's not the be-all and end-all. You know, I looked out on that pitch on a Sunday morning with 300 kids running around, and I just envisaged an artificial pitch with another 300 kids running around. You know, as you know, Mox, we've all got young kids. We're all of a certain age now. My lad's 10. Okay, he plays with the wrong size ball at the moment. Can't help himself. A bit like my brother-in-law. But this was just about, look, let's make Newlands an exceptional facility. And the one thing people are probably missing a little bit, if we don't get it at Newlands, or Newlands Park doesn't get it, no one gets it in North Gloucestershire. There won't be another pitch anywhere in this county. You know, the names have gone in the hat. The RFU have decided. There's a massive process that's been going on for nearly 18 months. If we don't get it, no one gets it. So, you know, from my point of view, I just wanted the pitch. I want the facilities. I just want the best, you know, the best clubhouse we can have for everyone to use. You know, now if the latter comes with it and the first team get better and the ladies get better and the minis and juniors get better, then fantastic. But, you know, it really is about just building a great facility.
Yeah, so it's not just for Cheltenham Tigers, it is for everyone.
Yeah, so the technical bit here, Moxie, is the actual pitch is owned by the RFU and it is for a substantial period of time. Cheltenham Tigers, given it is our home ground, are given a certain set amount of hours, you know, during the week. The FA are involved with this. There'll be 5-a-side leagues run on it. You know, local schools will be able to use it. And if you look at the wider context of Newlands Park isn't just about Cheltenham Tigers. The Barometrics have a number of teams there. Newlands Park has its own football team. We have walking football for the over 50s. There's rounders, there's netball, there's new power chair football that's just about to start from you know, one of the local guys in Bishop's Cleeve, Pat Cleo. You know, we've got a tie-in with Riding for Disabled. You know, it's a big old lump of a building, isn't it? It's a lot of fields out there, and it's used surprisingly for so much more than rugby.
So do you know whereabouts on the field this pitch is going to go?
Yeah, so where the current first team pitch is, as you come down Evesham Road and you can see it, that is where the new ground will be. There's a few minor amendments which we're just working through on contract at the moment due to, you know, having to meet certain RFU standards. But basically it will go there, and then we will have to make some adjustments to our other current pitches, but we'd like to think it will enhance the playing facilities, not detract from it.
Oh, good. So as well, what's been the response or the attitude from player supporters and members of the other clubs?
That's an interesting one, mate. So I think when you first hear that Cheltenham are getting an artificial pitch and spending £500,000 on changing rooms, you think, why? You know, they're only in such and such a league, all the rest of it. But then I suppose when it dawns on you, you start thinking, well, they've got 300 kids, they've got a ladies section that are doing very, very well. You know, they were very, very unlucky not to sort of be in the upper echelons of the championship. You know, they are top flight. We've got girls teams there as well.
And when you go to the changing rooms, as it is at the minute,
yeah,
they are shocking.
Yeah. Well, we've all played
Yeah.
there. We've all changed there. Smith's been
Proper
there.
rubbish.
Yeah, and you can't currently use them for the minis and juniors. You just wouldn't put, anybody in them. So the changes need doing anyway. I mean, the other sort of thing you sort of look at it, you think, why £500,000? That's a lot of money from some changing rooms. But unfortunately, anything nowadays that's involved with children, ladies, health and safety, we have to comply to the RFU spec. So actually, the change rooms have been redesigned by the RFU. And we have to comply. So if you imagine the old Smith's changing rooms, you're sat there with your peg behind you. The new changing rooms are probably three times the size. They've got their own showers, got their own toilets. So there's 6 new changing rooms, all self-contained. You can come in at different entrances, so you can have the ladies in one side. So it's not like the good old days, Mox, where we went away to Barker's Butts and the ladies were showering, and I think from memory you had some hair and you washed it about 15 times.
Moxie has never had hair.
I might have done once. I can't remember myself though. I've slept since then. So obviously it's all been designed and it's all been approved and ready to go.
So yeah, I mean, again, Cheltenham bought Newlands nearly 10 years ago, and it's a personal opinion. I'm not sure what Crispo thinks, but they took a long time to make it their home, and they've only really been down there 2 or 3 years now, and they hung on to the coattails of the Prince of Wales. And whether or not you're a fan of that place or you were a fan of the athletics ground, it doesn't matter. Newlands is now the home. And I sort of can't even remember what the question is.
I can't remember either. It's boring the hell out of me as well. But so how much have you raised?
So we currently, from the crowdfund, we went through just short of 61,000 on the day. So we set 55, so we smashed that, and we've continued to get pledges in. But over and above that, give you a prime example. So young Tim Bradshaw, we'll all remember Bradders.
Yeah.
He's got a roofing company down in Cardiff. They've kindly come on and said, look, we can't put any money specifically in, but we'd like to help you with roofing materials. The same has happened with labour, professional fees. It's quite hard to put any tangible amounts on some of this stuff, but the support's been massive, and it continues to come.
Is that the what the total is now shown on the webpage, whatever it is? Is that the final total?
No, definitely not.
You can still carry on.
Yeah, we're still doing it. I mean, look, it doesn't take a genius. You walk around Newlands, you can see there's so much work to be done. It isn't just about building, new changing rooms. That's what we've got to do to comply with the RFU.
Could do with the car park, isn't it?
Well, it needs a bit of work on the car park. It needs landscaping. We'd love some more pitches. There's loads of things that need to be doing. You've got the famous Sarries balcony. Let's be fair about it. It's a fantastic amenity you guys have got there. It builds great team spirit. You've got your guys watching the pitch. We've got a little balcony. It's never used. That's certainly where Crispo would like his director's box.
Absolutely, get a bar up there. Thatcher's on tap.
I would say you need a sherry bell, but you're not having it.
No. I think the sherry bar is definitely a Sarries thing.
One of the big things as well on all that money is the 450 odd thousand that's already been raised. That's pretty much down to David Evans.
Yeah,
the guy is a grant funding superstar. They're the most boring things in the world to fill out. They take hours, and God knows how much time he spends doing it. But every possible avenue for getting money, David Evans has got hold of it. And to come up with 450 grand before you even started is something else, really.
Exactly.
Our little bit that we've, Cheltenham in itself has managed to raise, whatever it ends up at, is pretty good. But the work that goes into getting that other money is phenomenal, really.
And in fact, I've just remembered the question now. So we were talking about the pitch and where it's going to be and stuff. So we go back to that comment. The foresight of the committee 10 years ago to buy Newlands, but actually to put planning permission for an artificial pitch 10 years in. So we've actually got planning for an artificial pitch when they weren't even, the in thing to have. So the foresight then, even when we didn't even play at Newlands, was phenomenal. So this little bit that we've raised is great, and it's wonderful, and it's got great spirit going again, and everyone's tapping themselves on the back. But actually, the work behind the scenes to get us to this position in the first place is the real sort of prize, isn't it?
So when you're looking at actually doing the work, because like I said, the RFU NatWest Rugby Force, that's only on one day, so that'd be a battle to do it on one day, wouldn't it?
I think it would be a battle.
DIY SOS in one day. Boom.
I am pleased to announce that Mr. Archie Nels has offered to do the changing room plastering, and there is one particular room we'd like to look like the North Sea. And his response to me was, well, if I plastered the walls, you wouldn't need pegs because you could hang your coat on it.
So, yeah.
So when do we start, Mark? Look, we've got the money. We're currently dotting the I's and crossing the T's with the RFU on the pitch. There's a key date for us around the 10th of May, which we think will then be, all singing or dancing. The RFU will come out and explain things and get behind it. We really need to get cracking. We want to be in the ground May, June of this year, getting these changing rooms built. When the pitch goes in is very reliant on how many other pitches around the UK are built. There's apparently 60 under offer, but we're told we're in the very top of that list at this moment in time because we've in fact got planning permission for ours, which in a lot of clubs are in the process of getting in. So, I mean, the committee boys, they've all been down to see Western Hornets, see some of the pitches down there.
Funny enough, that's our tour fixture.
Is it?
Yeah.
Down there.
Yeah.
They've had theirs this season.
Don't call them Western Hornets though. They don't like it.
Don't they?
It's Hornets.
Have they got a B team though?
For God's
Come
sake.
on. Yeah. So look, it's great, and we just got to get the thing done. There's always, like any building project, you get your planning permission, you get your builders lined up, you get all the spec done. There's always contracts, there's always legalities to deal with. It's a £500,000 extension. It ain't small, is it? Let's be fair.
No.
So we've got a lot of work to do.
I see as well on your social media that James Simpson Daniel, he came down on the final day when he. That's a pretty good name.
We kind of leaned heavily on professional player links. Obviously, we've got Dan Murphy, and he was quite instrumental in spreading the word out with his sort of friends and his circle of buddies. And we were kind of pushing and trying to get celebrities, as it were. We've got Jill Douglas, who's the president of Ladies. She's obviously got a big pull in terms of the amount of reach she can get on Twitter and Facebook. So it was good to have those on board. But we kind of needed just sort of like a special focus. Just, that kind of thing gets you in the papers. Just a club building a set of change rooms isn't that interesting.
So Dave Townsend OBE wasn't a big enough draw?
Well, not if you've spoken to Townie, you'd know you've had enough. So, but no offence, Mr. President, sir, Captain Mannering.
Musty, sir.
But no, I don't really know how Simpson Daniel got involved with it. I suppose Dan got older. His son obviously plays down at Cheltenham in the minis and juniors, so he's aware of what was happening. Yeah. And he's already got this challenge that he'd set himself previously on this Watt bike thing. So this was kind of like a bit of a training session for him, really.
Yeah, I mean, to be fair, he phoned me up on the Saturday before and said, look, Tanner, you've asked for a while. Chris McCormack from CMP Meets had sort of had a beer with him. They were talking about what they can do. And he said, look, I'll get involved, but, I need a challenge. It's got to be, I want to put my name to something, but, I don't want to just rock up and look pretty on a bike. So we started talking about it, and obviously the obvious thing was for him to ride us through to the finish. So obviously we had the finish at 11:59. That's exactly 5 weeks after we started the campaign. It gave us a focus. He got on. Within 2 days, we'd had Nicky Robinson, Cipriani, the Burns boys, Brian Redpath had tweeted. Then all of a sudden, as Mike said, then you got interest from the BBC. So all of a sudden you're on radio. You've been invited onto Cherry and White's Wednesday with Steve Kitchen of the BBC, and all of a sudden you've got some interest. And then, to be fair to
but none of those are the UTS podcast, are they?
No, they're not yet, Moxy. But obviously, I'm sure you'll be extending your invitation out.
Oh, definitely, yeah.
So to be fair to Sinbad, he jumped on it. He set himself a challenge. He was there at 7:30. The guy's a consummate professional. He was there at 7:30, headphones. It was as if he was playing for England. He had his head on. He had all his kit, his drinks, his stuff, and he started at 8 o'clock. There was no one at the club. He was on a bike, sat outside in a gazebo, and by 11 o'clock he'd done his 100k. His mum and his wife were telling me, look, get him off. He's absolutely knackered. You're killing him. And he said, no chance, Tanner. I'm going to 11:59. Carl Hogwo wanders over. He's obviously his kids play at the minis and juniors. Come on, Sinbad, you've had enough. You've proved your point now. Get off. No, and he kept going and going. And I can honestly say that kid left nothing on that bike. And I know 135, 136 kilometres. There's people around that we all know. They've done the John O'Groats. I'm told on a watt bike that's something special, and I believe his normal training session's 20k.
Well,
So-
I read that he did that because he didn't want to stop at the 100k. He wanted to go on because people were paying per kilometre.
Exactly. So he just kept coming. He kept a bucket in front of him. People were stopping in the traffic, walking across the grass, putting money in the bucket and walking back again.
Mum?
Yeah, putting mum in the bucket. Never
And
put mum in the bucket.
The bucket wasn't the same bucket that's used to spewing. It's a separate bucket.
Yeah, it's not your famous bucket. Marks. No, no, not at all. Now, to be fair, the guy is a legend. He got behind us. He wanted just to do something slightly different than just put his name to it. And, you know, he did it. It's a fair play. Funny enough, I spoke to him today. He's still absolutely ruined.
Fantastic. We're going to move on in a sec. Is there anything else you want to say about this challenge?
That really, it's just a massive thank you to everybody that got involved. You know, there's people from rugby clubs all around the county have chucked a few quid in. You know, people students haven't got a lot of money, stuck a tenner in. You know, we're fortunate to be surrounded by a lot of big businesses who've been able to stick in some good serious money. You know, and you corral your mates and people like Mudders that takes, you know, a solid month. I was working on him to part with some cash.
And he still had to put 51 in because the boys put 50 in.
He wanted to be better than
he
everyone
can't
else.
help
He put
himself.
51.
When I had some real favourite pledges. We had a couple from the under 8s put their pocket money in for £5, the three brothers.
That's amazing.
I think the under 14s drinking tour fund, and then in brackets, obviously the parents, not the kids. I thought that was quite a nice little one. I love the fact that three of the
we were on tour with them last year. I don't believe that.
No, exactly. Three of the senior players were getting fed up with the half the playing guys not putting in, so they sponsored a changing room for £1,000 between the three of them. The Hoff family, I mean, you know, you pick up the phone to Gary, Max, Ben, you know, they already sponsored a change room. You know, a large sum of money's gone in. They're already behind it. They've given me tickets. They've given us a shirt to raffle. And on the Sunday morning, he phoned in an absolute panic saying, Tanner, I'm so sorry, I forgot to put in personally. And they all put personal money in as well. You know, and that for me was the biggest thing of this crowdfund. It was actually humbling. You know, my other favourite one, and I know it went in the press, is WPC Davis, one of the most, it's definitely Cheltenham Tigers' most famous rugby player. He was in the Lions, he played for England, he played for Harlequins, he was our club captain, he was our president. The guy's 90 odd, you know, doesn't come down to the club very often because he's slightly deaf and he doesn't like being in big crowds. He walked into that clubhouse, wrote a cheque for £1,000 and handed it over the bar. Phil Blakeway phoned me up and said, Tanner, I want to get behind this. I'm giving you my 1980s Lions blazer to South Africa. Now, there's no way on this planet, Marks, as you know, any rugby club would ever sell something like that. It's irreplaceable. But the fact these people have come forward and with their gestures is what it was about. And, you know, I can honestly tell you there were times where I did have a bit of a well up. It was a bit like a mixture of DIY SOS and Red Nose Day. Do you know what I mean? Especially, you know, when, you know, yeah,
That's just the cider.
That's just a cider. It's just been with crispy too often. But look, rugby is a great thing, isn't it? And that's what this is all about, isn't it? Let's just make a great, not just rugby club, a great sporting facility. And can you know what I would love, and I know what everyone's going to say to this, listening, one day, can you imagine a triple header on that pitch, 11 o'clock, Cheltenham Sarries playing top of the table clash against someone. The second game may be the ladies, the third game may be Cheltenham, and maybe even the Pats play after. Who knows? Imagine a full day of rugby played on a full artificial pitch with everybody there. You know, from a spectator's point of view, what a fantastic day. You know, and that's what it's about, isn't it? Do you know what I mean?
Yes,
That's year-round rugby as well, isn't it?
local. Yeah, just getting local rugby, isn't it? Getting it together.
Yeah, definitely.
Because one of the things that I understand from the RFU is that if there is a game called off elsewhere in the county, that the match could then be played at Newlands because it can cope with 2, 3, 4 games in a day.
Yeah.
You know, it'll have floodlights.
Yep.
You know, so you can quite easily in the winter, you know, a 2:30 kick-off, then a 5 o'clock kick-off is easy to do.
Yeah, moving away from that now.
Yeah.
Could talk a little bit about sort of local rugby.
Which we know loads about.
Well, have you,
We drank in a few bars, Crispo.
yeah, have you got any views on the state of it at the minute? Because
Pat
I
stuffed
find-
Cheltenham 2 64-14 or something.
this evening?
There's my statement about the state of local rugby. In fact, I could get on a soapbox about local rugby.
Now, I'll tell you, the interesting thing about local rugby at the moment is last weekend, I believe, that the Sarries were pushing for promotion, Smiths were pushing for promotion, and the Pats were pushing for promotion. And I understand all 3 teams lost. Now, I can honestly tell you, there was nobody in Cheltenham Rugby Club or in the North sitting punching the air saying great, because that's not how local rugby works, because we've all played at different clubs. We all want local Cheltenham sides to do well. So that's a blow for local rugby last weekend. It doesn't matter what, and when you see Laurie Fisher go down in civil service, fair play to him.
That's brilliant.
Fair bloody play to him. And I love the fact that he got one of his little hats and they put the service logo on there. They're going to pay him a few quid. And then someone came who owns a brewery and says, oh, we'll sponsor his beer. That's bloody rugby, Mox.
Yeah.
And do you know what? One of the reasons that I wanted to get back involved a little bit was, without getting too morbid about this, is, we had young Dowie Edwards pass away at Cheltenham. We've obviously had the great Jimmy Connolly. We've had Speedy Roberts. And when you hear stories about every local club that week wearing that team's socks, that bloody tells you what Cheltenham rugby is about. That's what it's all about, really. And you know what? I actually genuinely wish we stopped the living infighting and all start helping each other a bit more. Do you know what I mean? And I understand people worry about doing this and doing that because you poach players or the bar takings goes there. It doesn't matter. All we want is more and more people playing rugby, more kids playing rugby, more ladies playing rugby. We just want all the clubs doing well. So look, I think there's some challenges out there. There's plenty of rumours about certain clubs struggling with this and certain clubs struggling with that. There aren't enough people playing. There's no doubt about it.
That's what I was going to say. That was what I was going to come to, sort of player retention. I find that the numbers are declining.
I think
they're not the same attitude anymore. Back in our day. But you wouldn't dream of going away on holiday during a rugby season. You wouldn't dream of it. Cheltenham had their goal kicker go on a month-long trip to Vegas and San Francisco, wherever he went. Fair enough.
He could have put that money into the crowdfunding, couldn't he?
He stuck his pledge in, so you can't have a go at that.
No, you can't blame the individuals. No, but it's
nobody goes. No, we never went away on holiday during rugby season. You were there every Saturday. If there was a wedding, I missed 3 weddings because I was playing rugby on a Saturday. People don't have that.
They're all yours
anymore.
Loves a bit of wedding cake, Chris.
Oh, I'm bad for cake. Cake. But yeah, the attitudes have changed. It started professionalism that came out. You got 17, 18-year-old kids expecting to get paid for rugby. It's never going to work. People have got to play rugby for their local club because they love playing rugby.
Yeah. And
trying to get 3, 4, 5 sides out in a week, that's long gone. That doesn't happen anymore. The Pats still get a 3rd team out quite regularly, but Cheltenham struggle to get a 2nd team out. Sarries, I know, have struggled to get a 3rd team out because
we've really struggled this year. Yeah,
and people don't want to travel so much anymore. They've got other commitments on Saturdays. That's the way of the world now. Unfortunately, it was different for us, but that's the way kids are.
And I think the other thing as well is clubs are run by less and less people. You could probably count on one hand the amount of people now at X club doing the work. The same with Cheltenham, the same with Saracens. You rely so heavily on so few. And actually, when you do ask people like this crowdfund, that's the thing. You've got to get more people back involved doing what they can do. Rugby's not about an individual player, a superstar. So everyone does their little bit of their job and it works. And I think the same applies to getting sides out, running the club, picking the litter up. As Archie Nouns was said when he asked me to play for the Vets the other week, well, who's going to pick up the because you're not there? Who's going to carry the spade? Look, it's about everyone doing a little bit, isn't it? And that's what's missing in local rugby, I think, is everyone putting their hand up and doing a bit. You've either got the person who does everything or they do nothing, and you can't single players out because that's not fair because they are different now, And I know the old boys get really carried away about, there's no loyalty. It doesn't matter to me. What should matter is they're still playing rugby, they're still going down the club with their mates, and they're still involved.
Do you see anything in the academies? There's a few academies come up. Do you think that's affected?
Well, it has. The old way sounded really old.
Because
it used to be the best players from Cheltenham went to play for Gloucester, or the best the best local clubs players went to play for Cheltenham. The best out of Cheltenham went to Gloucester, and that's how the progression worked. Then you've got a group of 18-year-old kids who are bloody good at rugby. You know, that 18 to 23 age range is when most rugby players are playing their best rugby. They're their fittest, they're injury-free, they're in the gym, they're enthusiastic about it. And that's where the academies come on. You know, they cherry-pick the best out of the clubs or out of the schools, and they prioritise rugby over everything. And you can see Hartbury, look where they are. You know, they're virtually, well, they're promoting now, aren't they?
Yeah,
they're in the Championship. You know, they're one league away from the Premiership, and Hartbury is supposed to feed their best players into Gloucester. Now, there's obviously something wrong there, because if you look at Gloucester's performances, you would say, well, they need some better players. So what the academy's role is, and if it works well, I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, there's other thing, isn't there, where they grab a load of potential players, sort of cut them in half and say, right, you half, you're going to go on and you're going to make a big, be a big thing in rugby. You, the other half, see ya.
Yeah, exactly.
And it is literally just see ya, off you go. Nothing more
and
to
they
do.
don't.
And surely they just turn around and say, oh, I thought I was better than that, so
Yeah.
I can't be bothered anymore.
No, so they'll
And
filter
they're
back down
lost.
to a club. Because I've been at Gloucester Academy, if you want me to play for you, I want 75 quid a game.
Yeah,
or
but
100
not
quid a
only
game.
that, Chris, but you find that some of those thought, well, if that's what they think of me, I can't be asked
I
anymore.
lost to the game, actually. They'll go
Yeah.
and do something else.
Yeah.
Yeah, of course.
I think that's the thing. There's a genuine loss to the game. We don't got enough people coming in, enough people staying in it, and that's the one thing. You know, anyone listening to this, or all the clubs, we've just got to work really hard at keeping people involved. And it doesn't matter if they're not any good. It's not what rugby is about. You need fat and thin uns, tall uns, quick ones, slow ones to make a game of rugby. You know, and I think the problem is with professionalism and academies, they're all in the gym, they all look the part, don't they? But actually, that's not what it's about. It's just about playing rugby. Get down to Savage Sturds, get down to Smiths. It doesn't matter where you play, just play rugby.
Thing is, because obviously when we were younger, we went from the age groups, then we went to Colts, didn't we? That was, to me, that's best years.
Yeah.
Best years ever.
Well, you won't get many people to know that one.
And
I don't think.
Colts has just disappeared.
It has disappeared. That's why I was on about the academies. Yeah. And then obviously you fed from that to the under 21s and 23s, and then into senior rugby, because that's
we've tried to
the
get
natural progression.
We've tried to get a Colts team out all year. I think the most people we got were 11. We tried to just get 3 games, and we just cannot. You know, the schools don't release the lads, and I understand that. You know, they play a lot of sport. You know, we all played in Colts team where there was 2 or 3 Cheltenham College boys, there were 2 or 3 lads from Rencombe, and they made up the numbers, didn't they? And they were good quality players. And it doesn't matter about our fixture list and which Colts team was the best, because we'll only get certain people back on the phone about that. Well, obviously, you know, Leroy will argue it was his, my brothers will argue it was his, mothers will argue. You know, it doesn't matter, does it? At the end of the day, you know, you had the pick. You could pick the best Colts team in this town, and if you weren't good enough, you didn't get in. Yeah. You know, so at the end of the day, we've lost that. Will we ever get Colts rugby going again? I don't know. I think we'd be very, very lucky if we did.
It's looking difficult, isn't it? I mean, nowadays you got obviously it goes from 16s, 17s, possibly an 18s, and then it's straight into senior rugby.
Exactly.
And that is, although it doesn't sound a lot, that's a massive gap for some of these boys.
Huge jump.
I was talking to young Benny Lewis, played hooker for civil service for many years. We all know Benny, he's always laughing. He's got 2 young lads. His young lads, I think he's 16, 17, been playing rugby the whole, you know, all his time through the Tigers, goes training with Cheltenham. He's not allowed to play until he's a certain age, 17, 18. You know, so he's had a whole year of not playing any rugby. You know, it's bonkers, isn't it? Now, I'm not saying it's right that we have young kids playing and whatnot, but in the day, you were taken down the 3rd team and put on the wing. At least you went to Upton on 7 on a Saturday afternoon. They gave you a few beers on the way home. You come back half cut, didn't you? That was what rugby was all about. You played on the wing. It was just a bit of fun.
Yeah,
and the old
underage drinking.
And the old boys looked after you, and that was rugby. And that's why you had the Mark Harrises and all the old boys at the Saracens. You went away with the Saracens, and they looked after you, and you had a little run around, and you come home again. And eventually, when you got older, you worked into the seconds and into the first. It just doesn't happen anymore. And it's a real shame. We've got too many kids playing Xboxes and not playing rugby.
Yeah.
Oh God, we sound really.
Oh, we are.
What is
we
it?
are
Yeah.
bloody old, to be honest.
Well, I'll tell you what, we'll finish it there on a downer. Cheers, guys.
Yay!
Right, let's find out a little bit more about you two.
God.
Yeah, but when we advertised that you both were going to be on this month, we had a couple of people get in touch. Tyner's nodding. He's seen the post. First of all, Crispy, I know is your brother still a DJ? No.
He used to have a mobile disco.
Yeah, he used to have a mobile disco.
Yeah.
Well, he's got nothing on this young man over here, is he?
DJ Dan?
He was a resident Ibiza DJ. DJ Dan, the man with a plan. Is your favourite food establishment, is it still the Burnley Inn?
It is, and it's roast egg and chips, if I believe.
Roast egg and chips, yeah.
Yes, it was.
Does such a thing exist?
Was the my favourite line in that whole of that article, and I can't even remember what year it was. What would you most likely be doing if you weren't playing rugby? World War II fighter pilot, because I love danger. And the only thing that makes you smile even more when you repeat that story was the one, what do you do outside of rugby? I love to archive old video footage with Paul Morris from the Pats. And you've just got a vision, Lee Holder stood behind the bar with an Irish accent talking to Katie Troker or whatever her name was, pretending to be me and that I was Irish and doing a whole interview for the Pink Un. It was my phone the
Best
next
mate
day.
was Nick Popplewell.
Nick Popplewell. Worst rugby. I broke my leg playing rugby against Lawrence Delalio at Twickenham. Lee Holder is
It's fake
officially a Cheltenham legend.
Can you think who told me about that? Those questions?
It's got to be Mudders, isn't it?
Mudders, Mr. Pittman.
One of those two.
Mr. Pittman.
Yeah, of course it was. Crispy,
Yes.
is it true that when you serenade women, they cry?
I have made women cry on 2 occasions in a bar in Lanzarote. One of them was very successful.
What song was it?
Oh, it's a bit of Ronan. Everybody loves a bit of Ronan.
Ronan.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's beautiful.
Lovely. Right, a little more seriously, Tyner,
Yeah.
who would you say is the best player that you've played with and against?
Tanner
Best-
didn't play any rugby.
I didn't play any rugby. I ran around occasionally on the bench and came off when Neil Bellis got a yellow card and they needed another prop to come on. I think Kramer, from a front row point of view, I remember playing his first ever game. He came to Cheltenham. He was in the second. We'd walked over the pitch at the back of the thing, and I just wondered who the hell this man Mountain was praying before a game. And then when he put the first hit on some like Westbury on 7 third team winger and cut the kid in half, I thought, oh my God. So I think he was probably the best player. And what was the other question?
Best player you played against?
Played against.
Quite crisp.
Yeah, Mike Crisp. No, I think.
I mean, you might not know their name or.
I'll tell you what. I always enjoyed playing against. And I thought he was a good player. Was Dave Kingscott from the Pats. I think he's a proper old school rugby club. If you didn't have 3 or 4 stripes down your back because he shooed you and laughed at you as he's done it, and I think that I think Dave Kingscott was a proper good old school rugby player, and I'd still love playing against him if I was able to put a pair of boots on, because he'd still give as much as he could now than he would when he was 25. And he wasn't dirty. He just played the game to the limits. And so I like playing against someone like Dave Kingscott because I just think they were great guys.
Crispy, same 2 questions to you, mate.
Wow. I'm sport for choice, really. I'd say from a Cheltenham point of view, probably someone like Ian Turner or Dave Williams, because they kind of looked after me. I knew if I was in trouble, just give the ball to them, they'd get me out of it. Just outstanding rugby players, just didn't look like they were working hard, but knew everything about the game. Really taught me a lot when I was sort of going from 21s to second team to first team at Cheltenham. Obviously, being the mercenary that I am, I went up to Worcester and played with some professional players up there, some real quality. Sort of people like Ben Harvey, who was at Worcester and then went to Moseley as scrum half. He was just one of those players that could win a game on his own, really. Just a real turn, and something happened. Played against, I always hark back to Cheltenham's game against Harlequins in 96 or 97, whenever it was. When you're up against Gary Connolly and Robbie Paul and Dan Luger and Jason Leonard comes off the bench, and I think they had 8 or 9 internationals playing that day, and Will Carlin pulled out at the last minute. and just to play against them, and I'd torn my medial ligament 3 weeks before, so I rehabbed like crazy just to get fit for this game, and used about 4 rolls of tape just so I could play in it. And I knew I shouldn't have been playing, but just incredible the speed they do everything at, and when they hit you, you're properly hit.
You stay hit.
That's that was the start of professionalism when rugby league boys started coming back to Union, and it's the skill level and the fitness. We were all out on our feet, but they were just powering through. But that was definitely the best rugby moment.
Would that be a favourite game you've played in?
No, I mean obviously I was fortunate enough to play at Twickenham for Gloucestershire Colts. We got stuffed by Yorkshire.
Going to be my next question. That was.
Oh, sorry, but yeah, it's a highlight of anybody's rugby career, and back then it was unusual. Now they've got quite a few schoolboy rugby matches get played there, and a lot of cup competitions, intermediate cup gets played there. But at the time, it was quite a novelty and a big deal, and I remember all you boys came down.
Yeah, can I just ask you quickly? Sorry to butt in. Can you talk us through possibly, arguably, your finest kick of a rugby ball?
Well,
that
funny you should mention that. So we're losing by 20 odd points. I'm about 10 metres away from the try line.
Where is this again?
This is at Twickenham.
Yeah.
And I've got a 5 or 6 man overlap outside me, which I do a beautiful dummy and hack this ball off my shin, and it goes sideways, backwards, and eventually crosses the cross of the crossbar through the post, turn round, give the old salute to the boys in the crowd who are all in stitches and blindo, I imagine. But yeah, it was a beautiful kick.
Well, the thing is, yeah, I remember that game almost like it was yesterday, which is surprising because the famous rectangle were together, or famous or infamous rectangle were together.
The rectangle, absolutely.
Yeah, we were in the, like you say, we're in the crowd in the stands. We're drinking a lovely. It was a very expensive bottle of whiskey. It was in a velvet purple bag.
That was you remember, Moxy.
That was quite. That was quite funny. Possibly had, we possibly had all our clothes on as well. I think.
Did you have any 2020 or whatever it's called?
It was cold that day.
Oh, 2020, possibly.
Bombers 2020.
Bombers 2020. Little
Get into
bottle of
Mondo.
that,
Some Madronia, some Portuguese firewater.
Oh dear.
Couple of out-of-date pasties that Gus has taken out a skip.
What was your favourite game, China?
Favourite game, I think, was Cardiff, Cheltenham Colts. We went down there and we were supposed to be playing on the Arms Park, and they said, "Oh, sorry lads, not playing there, you're playing at Sophia Gardens." So we get there, and I think every Welsh team, from the under 11s to the 21s, 5 senior teams had played. It was an absolute mud bath, and we were short, so they put Henry on the wing, Henry Tomlin, scrum half, and I think we were losing by 60 or 70-0 at the time, and Piggy and Dolly and me were in the front row, and Piggy just turned around and said, "I've had enough of this. We might be losing, but we ain't going to lose the scrum." And it was like, Piggy didn't speak much, to be honest with you. Dolly looked at me, I looked at Dolly. Next thing was scrum. I then took the next 5 balls against the head. Nothing to do with me, but Piggy and Dolly were on a different planet, and we literally rammed the Cardiff front row up in the air without a shadow of a doubt. We went back in the clubhouse, and then everyone kept reminding all 3 of us, because we were walking around like we'd won the World Cup, is that we'd still lost 63-0.
Moving on a bit, some of our under-14s listen to this.
Oops, sorry.
No, it's all right. No, it's all good. They know more swear words than us. Don't worry about that.
You know more most things than us, I'm sure.
Obviously, you both have played the game. Have you got any tips for the young ones?
Oh, well, I was a goal kicker, and I just used to be, not to the extreme lengths of Johnny Wilkinson, but I used to just kick a ball constantly. Every Sunday, every Saturday, I'd just take a ball down to my local school and just kick it. You'd have to run after it, kick it from the other side of the post, just kick, practice. And that's the only way you improve, really. You can't just turn up and expect it to happen. The reason these top goal kickers have such high percentages is because they are the last ones on the pitch. They're out there kicking before, kicking after, non-stop practice. And that's the only way you can be as good as you want to be.
Tanner?
I think from my point of view, learn a song and be good at it. Learn a song
Forgot
and be
about the
good at
social
it.
thing.
Enjoy your rugby. Play as much as you can. I can remember being a young guy on a Sunday morning. Lodgy would take us over to Gloucester. We'd play for the Pint Pot. You just played as much rugby as you can. And I remember Bucko talking to me a long time ago about coaching the academies and stuff. And we're back on that subject. And he said, you know what? Some of these guys, they just want the tracksuit and be in the gym. That's not what rugby's about. Rugby's about playing. It doesn't matter if you play on the wing for Smith's thirds or in their first team at front row. Just play as much rugby as you can. And I suppose the other thing, and the irony coming from me, is get as fit as you can, because I look back now, and actually when I ref rugby, I lost a load of weight and got a lot fitter than when I bloody played, which is daft. You've got to be able to be fit to play the game of rugby. So just work on your fitness, and that's not weight. That is about getting up and down off the floor. When you go to a local playing field and you see someone run around, hitting the floor, getting up, doing his press, that's what fitness is about. All this CrossFit stuff, whether or not you agree that the technique's right or wrong, it doesn't matter. It's all about just being fit, doing lots of different sport. Don't become a gym bunny, because it don't help anybody. So, I think Chris Bizz's thing about practice is the right thing. But you know what I'm going to say, because it's Towner. You've got to enjoy yourselves, boys. You've got to embrace everything that rugby's
100%.
about. You've got to have some fun.
100%.
You've got to get
You
some
do need
mates.
to be able to sing a song on your own.
Yeah. And if you can't sing a sing on your own, get in that bedroom now, look yourself in the mirror, get your sister's airbrush and start practicing.
Right, we've got the Lions squad being announced on the 19th of April. Who do you think is going to be on that plane?
Christ, that's a big question. Well, have I mentioned...
I don't necessarily mean, though, obviously, the whole squad.
Well, I like to say I'm going to be on that plane, Moxy. I'm flying over on the 27th just to have a little trip over there to make sure they're okay. And before anyone says anything, no, I'm not using the crowdfunding funding.
I like this story.
Look,
There
I
it
think
is.
I won't answer that question, but I will answer who I think will be the Lions captain.
Yeah,
And the reason I think this person will be the Lions captain is because he's the only person I believe is truly on that sheet.
Is this going to be, hang on, sorry, is this going to be the test captain or the overall captain?
This is going to be the test captain, and it's going to be Owen Farrell. For me, I think he's nailed on that team. I think he's a born
10 or 12.
winner. I don't think it matters where he plays. I think he's a
12.
born winner. We can talk about your Wyn Joneses and your Hartleys and your Bests and all the rest of it. I don't think they're guaranteed. I think the competition for this year's Lions is absolutely off this planet. You're going to have world, and I mean world-class players, not get on that plane. There is going to be some major, major casualties. And I think this is the toughest ever Lions ever. I think we need to take some real grit in there. I love some of the Irish second row boys. I'd have some real fighters in there. But for me, Owen Farrell is nailed on. I think he's got such a brain. He's such a competitor. Whether or not you pay him at 10 or 12, I think he's the one name. And it was all about Stuart Hogg before and all the rest of it. But for me, Owen Farrell is going to be the captain.
Crispy.
I just think they might do it slightly differently. You said about tour captain and test captain. I think you could have a different captain for every test. They'll pick because of the competition. And, if Farrell gets injured, who's next? They did it last time. They had different skippers. I think Warburton will be there or thereabouts. I think because of his link with Gatland. Yeah, it does very much depend, obviously, on who gets in, which is why I think it might fluctuate from match to match.
I mean, I think that's a great idea, isn't it? You pick your tour captain. You're someone, the big player that everyone goes to, that knocks on the door and says, "Let's get a bit worried about tomorrow." So and so, you want that big character. You're Martin Johnson. You're someone like your Bill Beaumont. You're someone that you would follow through a brick wall. But actually, if he's not going to be picked on the Saturday, then you have to pick somebody else as well, don't you, to actually win the game on the Saturday? This is if you look at the run-ins of some of the test matches, I mean, there's a lot of games to be played. They're already talking about, you almost pick the names that might fly out. You've got Scotland and Australia. They'll fly across, and that's easy slotting, isn't it? I'll tell you what, I think there's going to be some major players that you would have shooed in to a Lions that won't even get on that plane.
Who do you think the big names are that are going to miss out?
As long as George Ford doesn't play, I don't care. I think George Ford.
I think George Ford will miss. I think Haskell won't go.
Really?
I don't think Haskell will go.
No,
Honestly,
I'd be
I'm not
surprised.
convinced about Warburton, but he will because of the Gatland thing. And Mike Brown, I think, is playing well, but I just think they could leave some real big names out. Some of the second rows that in any other era would have been nailed on. Some of the maybe one or two of the Irish second rows might go.
I think they'll leave Halfpenny out.
I think
I don't think he's anywhere near fit enough or in good enough form.
But would you be brave enough if you're Gatland to leave him out? Would you take Mike Brown over him? You've got Stuart Hogg.
Yeah, probably.
What's the Irish fullback? Kearney. Is it Kearney?
No.
Again, he's not. You've had some of these guys go on Lions tours before. The two Scottish second row, the brothers, Greys. And are you going to take both of them? One of them? Not at all. It's the second row position's unbelievable, isn't it? Where do you play Atoje? You're playing in the back row, he's playing in the second row, Laws.
He's first name on the sheet anyway.
Well, exactly,
Which, by your rationale, should make him captain. But he just hasn't got enough experience.
Exactly. But I think Owen Farrell has got the experience. He commands the game, and he's in charge. He tells them what they're going to do. He gives the forwards a rollock in, and he runs that back line. Whether or not he's the best player, that's a totally different argument, isn't it? Mm. That's where I sit on it, and I'm sure this debate's going to keep going and going. And it's going to be phenomenal.
Even when we see who's there and who's not.
Exactly.
It's a phenomenal tour. I can't wait.
I'll go first.
Chris, we go first. Righto. Okay. 4x4 or sports car?
Sports car.
Red or brown?
Red.
North or south?
South.
Bacon or sausage?
Bacon.
Football World Cup or Olympics?
Football World Cup.
Would you rather play in the World Cup final with England or the middle test for the Lions?
World Cup final.
Would you rather know a lot about a little or a little about a lot?
A lot about a little.
You got one go in a time machine.
Oh.
Where and when would you go?
I would go back in time to some very important event.
World Cup final, you missed a try, didn't you?
Oh yeah, I was at the bar when Robinson scored. I'd wait 5 more minutes and just get involved with the rush at the bar.
But it don't matter because you're going to play him anyway, aren't you?
Oh yeah. That's such a waste of a time machine. I'd go and knock off Hitler or something. But no,
people
just
do say that,
avoid the bar queue. Yeah,
it was the World Cup final. Yeah, but we were, Squirt and I were at the rugby club. It was so much better than you being actually in the stadium there, mate.
Last one. Apart from obviously Sweet Caroline, which is obviously the Sarries anthem, what is your karaoke song of choice?
Oh, I normally like to pop out a bit of Monkeys.
Okay.
Old school.
Oh, fantastic! So you're prepared to sing us out in a bit then?
Oh God!
Happy days. Right, thank you. That's you done. Right, Tyner.
I'll get the same one.
Same questions.
Oh, great.
Right, you've heard the answers.
No, I haven't. I'm not clever enough to think about it.
4x4 or sports car?
4x4.
Red or brown?
Red.
North or south?
South.
Oh, hang on. I've just realised you meant red or brown sauce.
Yeah. And I've just answered red.
Can I change my answer to brown?
Hang on, I don't red and brown. Everyone knows me. He knows I hate tomato sauce. Sorry, Mox.
That's all right. Right. Bacon or sausage?
Bacon.
Football World Cup or Olympics?
Olympics.
Would you rather play in the World Cup final with England or the middle test for the Lions?
Middle test for the Lions. It's phenomenal, mate. And if you've never been to a Lions test, just make sure you do one in your life, boys. That's something now for your under 14s. Make sure at some point in your life you get on a Lions tour.
Okay, Dan, let's get a crowdfunder going.
Yeah.
Would you rather know a lot about a little or a little about a lot?
A little about a lot.
You got one go in a time machine. Where and when would you go?
God, I should have known this. I've had some head start on this, Prispo. Where would I go?
Perhaps to the start of this interview.
Yes, the start again. Oh, God. Oh, what would I have wanted to see? I don't know. Moxie, I don't know. You've got me on that.
I know where you should go.
Go on.
Can I just say it's a time machine, so you don't have to go backwards?
No, you could go forward. Yeah.
You should go back to that game that you got stuffed 63-0 and instead of choosing halfway through to scrummage at the start.
We weren't losing because we were losing because H was on the wing, and they had Jordan North, his older brother and bigger, and he ran over him 15 times.
I missed out a question for you, Crispy. In all the excitement, sorry.
Quality
Fluid.
interview.
It's fluid. This.
If you were a drink, what would you be and why?
Thatcher's, because it's lush.
Dana?
Glass of red,
Why?
just like it.
It's because he's so sophisticated.
Old and aged.
Sophisticated and full bodied.
Back to the fitness thing. Again, yeah, obviously, Sweet Caroline is the Sarah's song. What's your karaoke song?
Well, other than Wee Sassy Lassie with a chair on my shoulder.
That's fine.
No, well, the one I'm always been singing is American Pie, so I'd have to say American Pie, Mox.
American Pie. Fantastic. Well, that's it from me. Have you got any plugs for anything? Websites, business, Twitter, anything?
Yeah, not personal ones, obviously, but
You can do that if you want.
well, if you need a website building, give us a shout. I'll hook you up. It's something awesome. But just have a look at the crowdfunder page. There's some interesting stuff on it, even though it's finished. And if you didn't get a chance to get involved, tell your parents, stick a tenner in, get your name on the wall. It'd be brilliant.
Yeah, and just resonate with your under 14 thing, Mox. This is about people playing rugby, and we want every single club to be successful. So I've got to leave you with this. Up the Sarries, boys.
Up the Sarries.
Up the
UTS.
Sarries.
UTS.
A great chat there with the lads from Cheltenham Tigers. A little bit of bumpiness in certain places where they'll knock the table a little bit, but sometimes you can't always help that. Still, doesn't take away from what is an absolutely fantastic episode. Congratulations to them for their amazing fundraising drive, and best of luck to everybody involved in converting their clubhouse and installing the brand new pitch. Definitely makes a change for somebody from a different club to get involved. I know they've got a little bit of history with the Sarries, but to have the guys from Cheltenham come on and share their experiences. And we spoke in the intro about the greater rugby, the wider rugby community, and I think that conversation literally sums up everything there. We want all clubs to do well, because then everybody benefits. And I think that's the thing of it. And that's kind of the idea with this podcast, is we want everyone to feel free that they can come on. Everybody's got a story to tell. Everyone, in one way or another, if they want to, can come and get involved. So thanks to those guys for joining us. Amazing chat, unbelievable chat, a lot of laughs. Hopefully you enjoyed it just as much as we did. But now, as we're in the business end of the season, let's have a look at the upcoming games for April. We mentioned the first team kicked off April last weekend on the 1st at home to Gordon League, coming away with a walkover win. They continue the run up to the end of the season tomorrow away at Hucklecote, which will be a very tough challenge with both sides chasing a potential playoff place. On Tuesday the 18th, the Sarries travel to Stoke Road to face Cheltenham North in the Combination Senior Cup semi-final, after the North beat Smiths a couple of weeks back. The winner of that will go on into the final on the 29th to face the winner of Old Pats and Cheltenham Tigers. The final game of the 2016-2017 season of Gloucester Premier will be at KGV on the 22nd against sort of local rivals, I guess you could say, Long Levens, in what always seems to be a fantastic game. And we always seem to have them on the last day of the season as well. Always the opener and always the closer. Weird. The Seconds are back at it tomorrow with their final merit table game of the season away to Stroud Nomads. They then return to action on the 19th in the Combination Junior Cup semi-final on the road to Old Pats Thirds, and if they make it to the final on the 29th, they'll face either Civil Service or Breedon Star. The third team is scheduled to close out the league campaign, locking horns with Old Crips Seconds at King George V. That's at 3 o'clock tomorrow. They return to action on the 13th on the road to Civil Service second team, and if they win that, they'll go on to face Cheltenham Thirds on the 20th. We have no idea who they're going to face in the final, as it could be a mix of Old Pat's Fourths / Veterans team, Norton, Tewkesbury seconds, or Smith seconds. So we recommend you check it out on social media for that one. Moxy's got the inside scoop on April's agenda for the youth team.
Right, yeah, April's going to be a busy one for the pups. On April the 2nd, we had a training session with Billy 12 Trees and Gareth Evans, which was a great morning. Them two are they're brilliant with the kids. Cheers, guys. On the 9th, we are away at Stow-on-the-Wold. We played them earlier on the season in the County Cup, and we beat them. So hopefully shouldn't be any problems there. On the 16th, we're at home to a touring side from Taunton. Obviously, we don't know anything about those, so we'll enjoy that day. Be made all the more enjoyable because afterwards we've got a memorial match between JC's Cheltenham Tigers team and a select invitational Saris team. So, yeah, looking forward to that. If you're about, come on down, give it a watch. It'll be a good day. Some are dubbing it Super Sunday, as it's Easter Sunday. Day off on the Monday, so that could be handy. And April the 23rd, Dan's favourite day, St George's Day. we could have been, I'm not going to say should have, because we were beaten by a better side, but that could have been Cheltenham Saracens in the 14s in the County Cup plate final over at Hartbury, but obviously that wasn't to be. Instead, we're fulfilling our fixture against Cheltenham North. We haven't played them this year, so again, we don't know if they're stronger or weak, or don't know what they're like. At the end of the month, we're away on tour. We're dubbing it the Temptation Tour, because this year it's Devon 17. We've got a fixture on the Sunday, and that's in Weston. We're playing against the Hornets, so that should be good. It's on a special pitch. Apparently, there's only 3 of them in the country, so that'd be interesting. So that's how we line up in April.
Fantastic stuff. That sounds like a really interesting one, actually, against the Hornets. Yeah,
it's apparently there's only 3 of these pitches in the country. It's been provided by the RFU. I want to say it's an RPG pitch or something.
I was going to make a really awful World of Warcraft role-playing game.
Yeah, I don't know about that, but yeah. Apparently it's going to be a great pitch. That it'd be good for the mums because there's no mud. They don't have to worry about washing the kits.
Silver linings.
Yeah, so that'd be good.
Just a quick reminder that all of the fixtures we have just mentioned were correct at the time of recording, but make sure you keep an eye on the social media pages for any changes that may occur. Find the club on Twitter at CheltSarisRFC. They're on Facebook, facebook.com/CheltSarisRFC, pitchhero.com/CheltenhamSaracensRFC, or on the club website, CheltenhamSaracensRugby.com. The UTS podcast is also on social media. Follow us directly at the UTS podcast on Twitter. The same on Facebook, facebook.com/the UTS podcast. You can also get online, find past shows, whether it's soundcloud.com/CheltenhamSaracensRFC, whether it's on Podbay, Overcast FM, Podbean, iTunes, wherever you get your podcasts. All of our shows are absolutely free, so go and check them out. And of course, don't forget to rate, review and subscribe on iTunes. Give us a comment on SoundCloud, chuck in a review on Facebook, or get in touch with us at our very public email, utspodcast@gmail.com. Once again, a massive thanks to Dan Townsend and Mike Crisp from Cheltenham Tigers for being our guests in the studio. Huge thanks to Moxy for joining me, for co-hosting the interview, for setting the interview up, actually. I've got to give him credit for that. And of course for keeping us updated on the pups. And as always, thank you at home, wherever you are in the world, for tuning in and joining us on the first Friday of every single month. Also, a huge thanks to Kevin McLeod of Incompetech.com for our backing music Motherload, which we use royalty-free under the Creative Commons License 3.0. And thanks as well to our sponsors Tone Radio, the University of Gloucestershire's student radio station, broadcasting all day, every day, right here from Park Campus in Cheltenham on toneradio.co.uk, as well as on the TuneIn app. They even have a live feed on the webcams on YouTube. Go and check that out. We'll be back once again at the start of May to discuss the end of the season. We're going to wrap the whole 2016-2017 campaign up. We'll also be discussing the Combination Cups, Hopefully we'll be bringing back some silverware again this year. And we might have an extra show or two because, hell, one might not be enough. So on behalf of myself, on behalf of Moxy, and on behalf of the Club of Dreams, have yourself an absolutely fantastic April, and we will see you on the other side of Combination Finals Day. Enjoy yourselves. Up the Sarries.
Happy Easter. Up the Surrey's pups. I did promise Pitters that Crispy would sing us out.
Oh, come on.
What are you going
You've
with?
put me on the
Crispo?
spot now.
What are you going with, son?
Sorry, we're not looking, we're not watching.
What should we sing?
Wow.
Where it began, I can't begin to knowing, but then I know it's going strong. Was it the spring? And spring became the summer. Couldn't believe it going on. Hands, touching hands, reaching out, touching me, touching you.
2, 3, 4.
Sweet Caroline, wah, wah, wah. Good times never seem so good.
So good.
So good.